Mike, you got JT, right? So,
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us about him. I think that he just seems like toughness is the thing that kind of jumps out, I guess, when people talk about it.
Yeah, tough, durable kid, big dude, plays hard. The thing about him that stands out to me, he played his best ball down the stretch when they needed him the most in their biggest games.
Yeah.
So I think anytime you see that, really credit to their program. They had a lot of guys that did that. So glad to get JT in the fold here.
Do you think there's some versatility there, playing inside, outside, and having success?
I think you can for sure. When you get into your sub packages, kick him inside, let him do some 3-tech stuff that maybe Dio or Dangbo did here the last few years. I think he can definitely do that.
Do you get a sense for kind of what, I guess, came on for him in the playoff, where he was always a good player, but then just was like totally dominant in those games against some of the top tackles of the draft?
I think those guys knew what was at stake. They knew that what they were capable of doing, going on a national championship run. And everybody just kind of turned it up a notch. You got the best version of everybody on that team, really.
With Riley Leonard, you like him as a player, but then how much has it helped out the connections, like with Shane and Phillip Rivers, and it can be like a total effort to know this guy as a player.
Yeah, I think, obviously Shane knows quarterbacks, and Phillip Rivers is an accomplished quarterback, so he had both of those guys in his corner, made it very easy to stand on the table and fight for him here in this building. He had a lot of support here, beyond just myself, a lot of guys like Riley, so we're happy to have him as well.
With Riley, there's obviously there have been comments about his arm strength and things like that, obviously very mobile, great playmaker. Was there a moment through scouting him where you're like, yeah, this guy does have a really high ceiling, is worth paying the table for him?
I think, kind of like JT, like we just talked about, he played his best ball down the stretch as well. But I think seeing him one last time at his pro day, watching him in person, kind of polished up mechanically, what he did live, seeing his arm strength, seeing everything he has to offer physically, I think that definitely kind of put the stamp on him as a player.
I'm curious with JT, when you see him get doubled as much as he did, like how do you evaluate what he maybe does against the double teams versus like teams are doubling him for a reason, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, I think they kind of see what we see, right? They see a big guy who's a real threat off the edge and can win in multiple ways. What you see from JT, he knows he's getting extra attention. He's used to it. You just kind of see a guy strain a little bit harder, fight a little bit harder. You have to get a little bit more creative, be a little bit more savvy to beat that extra attention that you're getting. And I think he did that.
Justin Walley, what stood out to you about his game? He was telling us he has played every coverage and obviously played through wrist injury last year as well.
Yeah, obviously with Justin, you're going to get some versatility with him. You're going to get smart, competitive, tough, instinctive. I think he showcased that throughout his entire career. Went up against some good wide receivers throughout his Big Ten career. Then he goes to the combine. I know Chris hit on it, but performing everything with the cast on, you don't see that. That's not common nowadays. It just speaks who he is and what type of player he is.
For a few years here, you guys have mostly drafted kind of taller cornerbacks. I guess how did you kind of come to terms with the size he's at and I guess how he plays at that size?
Yeah, so besides the size, he plays the game how we want him to play: smart, tough, instinctive, takes the ball away. He's going to come up in the run game, he goes after the ball when he's trying to tackle. So just overall, the complete players, aside from the size, is what we're looking for, and then the character on top of it. I think once you guys meet him and he gets in our building, he's a special individual, and I think you're going to see how tough he really is.
What's kind of the signature of Jaylen? You had Jaylen too, right?
Yeah.
What's kind of the signature with him?
Yeah.
Quality,
So
maybe.
yeah. The best thing about Jaylen is he got better. So he transferred in from Princeton after 3 years there, and then finished up at Iowa State. I think he got better every single week he played in the games that he did, and I think that just showed kind of his progression and being coached by a good offensive line coach there as well, because he really didn't have much of an offseason there going in. So he was playing his best ball towards the end of his career. Still young as far as the developmental curve, went down the Senior Bowl, played well down there as well. So, I mean, his size speaks for itself. He's a gigantic person. So we have high hopes for him.
Do you have a sense for, I guess, kind of how ready he is to be that player right away versus how maybe long it would take him to develop into some of that?
Yeah, he is a little bit developmental, but knowing him and the type of worker he is, if he gets thrown into a game, he's not going to bat an eye, and he's going to be fine. He's athletic enough, he's big enough, he's long enough, where he'll find a way to figure it out. I'll leave that kind of up to the coaches as far as schematically and whatnot, but if he has to go in there as a rookie, I wouldn't think it's going to be anything bad.
he's got that basketball background,
Yeah.
but he's obviously enormous. Like, how are his feet for a guy that size?
Yeah, that's one thing that's very impressive. He's 340 pounds and doesn't move like he's that big. He's got range on the edge. He's able to redirect, change of direction's good. So I think just the overall athlete's pretty good for how big of a man he is.
You had DJ as well.
Yes.
What struck you as him as a 3-down type of guy?
Yeah, so
Or is that what you see him as?
yeah, he's got to improve a little bit in the pass pro, but I think he's only 21 years old. That's the best part about him. He still has a lot to improve as far as that, but he played through that wrist injury this year, so you can kind of give him a slight advantage where it's going to get better. But he's tough enough, he's strong enough, and he knows the game well enough where you see his character play into effect there, where he's going to hit his ceiling, wherever that may be when it comes to the passing game. And he's shown enough on tape where, as far as a receiver, where he can make guys miss in the open field and run some routes out of the backfield and catch the ball reliably.
Well, Chris mentioned a lot of players in the league need to learn pass pro.
Yeah.
How do you go about figuring out if a guy can do that? What encourages you about his ability to learn that?
Yeah, two things I always look at is they got to be smart enough and they got to be tough. And that's what this kid is. He's tough as hell. Like I said, he played through that wrist injury this year. He played banged up throughout this whole season for the most part. He's not a guy who usually goes down on contact at first. He's going to run through people. So just his overall willingness, and he's got that. He's that type of player.
He mentioned confidence like several times when we spoke to him. Like throughout his career, where times are kind of like wax and wane. When you get a guy like that in your building, how do you like make sure you establish like we picked you for a reason? Like,
Yeah. I think he's going to come in here with the chip on his shoulder. He probably thinks he's a lot better back than some of the guys that may have been taken before him. So I think just having that mindset of, hey, you belong here, you're good enough. And DJ's an interesting cat. He's very simple. He's a yes sir, no ma'am, that type of person. He's not going to talk elaborately or anything like that. So I mean, he's all business. So he's got the right mindset, and we got a good room and a good group of coaches that will get the best out of him.
How much do you think being a no-star recruit kind of bleeds into that? He took his phone call in the car, and I'm like, is anybody like around you celebrating?
Yeah.
Like, it's like he woke up from a nap. So to that point, how much that business like approach just comes from what he had to, I guess, gain for himself throughout college?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who Junction City went to K-State and sitting behind Deuce Vaughn, but past 2 seasons he rushed for over 1,000 yards. That's tough to do, and then coming out early, kind of bet on himself. He did a lot of good things in his career there, so I think this kid does have a lot of confidence within himself. He just doesn't always express it and show it enough.
Like with JT, he worked out with like Bobby Wagner, Z out in Seattle, Cliff Averill, some of those guys. Like I know he's a big time recruit coming out of high school, but like is that abnormal to see like a high school kid seek out working with some of the best pros in his area?
I think the guys that want to be great do it. They find the guys in their network that they know, guys that that they have access to, or just guys that maybe mutual contacts that they can reach out to and pick their brain. So obviously very, very encouraging on his part that he did that and had enough awareness to do that. He actually stopped me in August and he hollered at me and said, "I know Zaire Franklin," so it was my first time hearing that.
Hunter Wohler?
Yep.
What stood out to you about him? I mean, he played everywhere. It seemed like for Wisconsin, but along those lines.
Yeah, obviously Hunter's versatility was a key thing for, especially later in the draft. He's played a lot of he's played dime linebacker, he's played strong safety, he's played free safety, did some punt returning this year, so that just shows that he's a reliable dude and the coaches trust him. Super smart, he's going to be a great special teams player for us, so looking forward to seeing how the coaches utilize him there.
I know like you just mentioned, you'll leave it open to the coaches, but as you're evaluating him, where did you kind of fall on what his best position is, or where he kind of fits best versus other spots?
Yeah, again, I think just the key that he can play multiple positions is awesome. With how much sub package we're in nowadays in the NFL, that dime linebacker role is nice for him, but that's not going to limit him to play strong safety or free safety either. He's got the brain to play it all.
Mike, when it comes to Riley, I guess, where's his floor right now as far as going to the NFL, and what piece do you see, okay, this is where he can grow?
I think we got 2 really good veterans right now. I think Riley coming in here, he's got the physical ability to be much more than a 3, but I think that's kind of what he's going to be coming in at, and he's going to find his way. Just learn, be a sponge, soak things up, and be ready to go. I think, we're excited about what he can be. He's got a long way to go, that's for sure.
Do you think like that extra year at Notre Dame the spotlight, the pressure that is Notre Dame, kind of just helped you, I guess, maybe understand his makeup a bit more?
Yeah, I think you know, anytime you're at a program that's as notorious as Notre Dame, you know, all the attention, the spotlight that's on you, especially as QB1, you know, the seat that he was sitting in, and then you go on a big playoff run and you have all eyes on you almost every week there for quite a stretch there. I think that definitely played into our evaluation, just his moxie, his confidence, his leadership, his ability to just kind of handle all that. That impressed us.